So what's the show called?
Thrash and Treasure.
Oh, Thrash and Treasure. Okay. I thought it was Thrash and Pleasure,
No, that's a whole other podcast.
not with a P.
No,
So it's not about bondage, this one then.
no. So that's our BDSM podcast, and you can find that late at night.
I see. Right. Okay. Oh, good. All right. Thrash and Treasure. All right. Well.
Yes.
Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to an extra prophetic edition of Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical comedy podcast whose evil plan of infecting Broadway with heavy metal leaves Pinky and the Brain dead in the water. And speaking of brain dead, I'm Aaron, and Jonathan's been called into Second City at the last minute, so he sends his apologies and says, guess what? What? We have another legendary Aussie diva entering the Matrix today, so swallow the red pill and reload because it's about to get revolting. Oh no, revolutionary. But first, we better turn back the time track and begin the journey at home because the younger man, Melvin, son of Alvin, is skipping class to down a six-pack or two at Frankie's house with the Heartbreak Kid, Oliver Macbeth, Darby, Joan, Fat Tony, and co. Although even if our wild side is a descant for gossips that inspires the whistleblower neighbours to call the missing persons unit on the tea party or sends a GP to give a welfare check to our bad mothers, I'm lucky to be joined by a qualified cop and Australian gangster from the Golden Miles underbelly, who is an angel when pulling police rescues out of suburban mayhem. But after having served natural justice as a prisoner of Wentworth, he nearly died with a falafel in his hand when the magistrate wanted a hard bargain that broke him, despite his poker face when given 15 amore years for the willing and able deaths of Mr. and Mrs. Murder and their kid, Blue Murder, also known as the 1993 Grand Final. I'm drinking from my Essendon mug for those at home.
Very good.
Anyways.
Very good.
Thank you. After the special squad, Sleuth 101, made up of pros and ex-cons, arrested the wrong girl but uncovered the truth about this fatal contact and the entwined twisted tales of the South Pacific Sea Patrol Counter-Strike team who aren't rushing to damage control at their waterfront station, despite the 12 or so angry people outside letting the fury within set off fires on the beach without warning, which create shadow wars along the streamline, until we see Flipper drift in with the gift as the water diviner extinguishes the flames, so the smoke won't sting us in the eyes. So I's got to grab the late great crocodile hunter and set a collision course for the Plex while shouting a huge local g'day along with a charge your roots to this actor, singer, ambassador, surfer, upper middle bogan, beastmaster, light horseman and lowdown man thing from our Aussie wood utopia who brings Hollywood to his own neck of the woods as the founder of the Peninsula Film Festival here in Victoria. Now go pop the popcorn till the pops are closer and closer apart, then hop into your golden Speedos and take my hand so we can please turn over and welcome to the torture chamber this bad boy Johnny with his prophets of doom, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, who might fumble love but at least know how to stay married in their Lost World turned Rocky Horror threepenny opera show where we're all saints, even St. George. So as the sun sets every night this icon guest enjoys a view from the bridge of acting excellence, and this idiot host dreamer examines his pillow for crumbs, especially after seeing this man leave no crumbs in his mustache as Ron Barassi. So before I fall forward and mark my tackle, let's line up the goal so we beat Hawaii 5-0 and a bunch of other credits. I can't fit into this nonsense, so I'm going to shut up and without pomp and circumstance, calmly introduce the remarkable Steve Bastoni. Yay! Welcome to the torture chamber. How's it going? Good.
Mate,
fucking hell.
Well done. I think you weaved in every single credit I've ever done and probably some I haven't done.
No.
But that was great. That was amazing.
No, I couldn't. There was 6 that I couldn't fit in, and I'm still kicking myself that I couldn't fit in, and that's why I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just like, no, I can't fit them into this nonsense anymore, so I just had to round it up at 9 pages. Goodness gracious me. Do you have a nap?
Well done, mate. Well done.
Thank you. Goodness me, that was good. I did warn you, didn't I?
You did.
Listeners at home, Steve said, should I be worried? And I said no, but secretly I was saying yes.
Yeah, Pun Central. My gosh, that's good.
So yes, but no, thank you so much for doing this. I'm absolutely so thrilled to have you on. I've been secretly nagging you for a couple of years. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yourself and Adam are 2 people that I connected with 10, 15 years ago, and you have both been not necessarily mentors to me, but sort of guided me along the way, given me advice. You've smacked me into line when I have needed it, and that has always been greatly appreciated. So I did do all this for Adam as well, so it was about time that I got you on.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I haven't seen Adam for a while. Last time I spoke to him, I bumped into him in Los Angeles about 12 years ago. We went and had lunch together. Yeah, he's still doing well.
So I did do one of those introductions for him. I did make a fool of myself like that in front of him.
Not at all.
And it was actually a one-on-one interview because of his politics. I'm like, I'm not having a co-host on that episode, just in case.
Yes.
Like, I will battle him on his politics, and we've argued so much over the years. I can trust myself doing that.
Yeah, look, I've learned to avoid that subject, particularly when having lunch with him, because we don't see eye to eye on that either.
Oh no, I go in, him and I, like, and there's so much love and respect there because we don't necessarily hold back, but we even if we don't accept or agree with each other's opinions, we're not afraid to do that, but then put it aside, and then there's love and friendship there. So
well, that's right. A difference of opinion around stuff like that shouldn't mean the end of a friendship, you know. And I think we become very reactionary as a population and very divided in our views. And I think it's no accident. I think the political powers that be have sort of engineered it that way to keep us fighting amongst ourselves so they can manipulate us from above.
Yes.
But we won't go into my conspiracy about that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does sound like totally tinfoil, but I totally agree, because when you look at the past 10 years or even past 15 years of social media, of how society has separated itself, and then COVID happened, obviously, and we separated ourselves even more. So now we're in the state we're in now.
Yeah.
Good luck to our species.
Well, yeah.
But anyways, on happier news, we'll move it along, because otherwise we could talk about this forever. You have had a couple of years hiatus with the Peninsula Film Festival, but you're back in 2026, because that's not even 10 years difference, that's 20. So young filmmakers or any age filmmakers have until December 5th, I believe, to send in their entries.
Yeah, who told you we had a hiatus? We haven't had a hiatus.
I looked on your website. It said 2003. There was no 2000. Oh my God. If I say 2003, just know I'm meaning 2023. I'm so tired and disheveled.
No, there was. We ran straight through COVID because we are lucky to live in a part of the world that still has a drive-in. One of the few operating drive-ins in Australia.
Yep.
So over COVID, with social distancing and isolation and all that stuff, we were able to run the festival in cars at the drive-in. So we haven't missed a year since 2011.
Oh, my bad. Well, that's actually, no, it's your website's bad, because as I say, I literally went 2023,
right,
then 2026.
Okay. I'll have to have a look.
Me and numbers today or ever, not good. But anyways, I am actually wearing the t-shirt that you sent me years ago.
Oh wow, look at that. You've got the OG collectible.
Yeah.
That t-shirt was the best one we've ever made, and everybody loves it. I want that back, Aaron.
Really? You're gonna have to pry it off my dead body, Steve.
That can be arranged, mate.
No doubt, doing these introductions, I'm going to die on this podcast one day. So let it be known, it's on the record. You can have this t-shirt when I die. But if you want it back, I'm more than happy to send it to you.
No, I don't think we'd be the same size, mate.
That's a medium. So no, you're very tall.
I'm an XL. It wouldn't fit me. It'll look ridiculous on me.
I actually wear XL clothing, believe it or not. Like,
do you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because I'm tiny, and
that's the look.
Yeah, but also then, like, I don't need a blanket during the summer. I could just wear like an extra large
t-shirt becomes a hoodie.
Yeah, that's it. So anyways, now since you started in 2011, 2012, it's grown into this incredible event. Has it exceeded what you were expecting or what you were starting out?
Yeah, it's grown into an amazing event, quite a sort of flagship event in Victoria's arts calendar. It's also been this sort of springboard for another 2 festivals that we have running now. I have a company called Film Festivals Australia, and we run the Peninsula. We run Broken Hill, which is the Perfect Light Film Festival in Broken Hill every year. And we've also got a new one in the Gulf of Carpentaria called the Outback by the Sea Film Festival.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we run 3 all year round, and, you know, we do pop-up events sometimes here and there at wineries and places like that. So it's a business that I started because of, you know, with being an actor, you have a lot of downtime between gigs if you're selective about what you do, which I'm becoming more and more selective about what I do as I get older. I just sort of go, I cannot be bothered doing your 2 days on, you know, homicide or whatever, a crime show. You got me. I'd prefer to sort of put my energy and time into something something else. And so the film festivals have been really good for that. We've also got a production company which we've started a few years back, which we've been producing some short films and web series, and we're about to do a TV show, which is great. So when I say we, I mean my business partner Megan Pascoe and myself, who run the festivals. Yeah.
Downtime is something we do hear a lot about on this show, which is why I say to people, learn more skills, not just that one, don't just excel at singing.
Yeah.
Learn editing, learn filmmaking.
Yeah.
Learn design.
Learn about AI.
Don't get started on that one.
Well, no, but I mean, that's, I hated it and I was resisting to it. I was very resistant to it. But I realize that it's inevitable that we're going to be using it more and more as a tool. It's not a creative thing so much. I think the biggest growth area in the future is going to be prompt engineering.
It is inevitable that we will be going to war against the machines. I have seen the Terminator movies hundreds of times.
We've seen the films. That's right. Well, aren't those, sci-fi filmmakers prophets? And, the biggest prophet, I guess, was Carol Capek. Carol Capek wrote a thing called Universal Robots.
Okay.
And he wrote a play. He wrote a play in the 1920s or something.
Oh, wow.
About these robots that ended up taking over the planet. Now, Alex Proyas has just done a musical about it. I wanted to do the play. I couldn't find the play anywhere, but the Carol Capek story is very prophetic about what's going on now with AI and robots. He invented the word robots, by the way.
Oh, did he? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Well, I knew Alex Proyas directed I, Robot years ago with Will Smith.
Well, he's been fascinated with that stuff. I didn't know anybody who had heard of Carol Capek or Universal Robots. And I saw him post something about it and I went, oh my God, I've been wanting to do that play for years. And he said, I'm doing a movie about it. And we chatted about it and we briefly discussed me playing a role in it, but it ended up going to Anthony LaPaglia. So.
Oh, goodness me. Alex Proyas, obviously the director of the iconic 1994 film The Crow, starring Tony Todd, who is obviously, as I keep saying, represented on my wall. Well, before we move on to the middle, speaking of robots, every time I'm in Sydney, I love to do the Matrix tour of all the filming locations where I walk around and ask myself, what the fuck was happening in this scene? So given the first film's massive success, were you guys ever confused on set, or were the Wachowskis very clear and direct on what you were doing? And, even if you're working a green screen, you weren't left in the dark.
I was very confused the whole time because I was partying very heavily in Sydney at the time. And so I was, perpetually confused, going from one nightclub to the next and trying to squeeze in a career in between nightclub visits was proving very difficult. Mm-hmm. So I remember going to the audition of Matrix. I hadn't slept and I rocked up there not knowing what the hell I was in for. Did the audition, didn't hear anything for about 2 months and then got the part. Mm-hmm. And then we were flown over to Alameda in San Francisco where we stayed for about 12 weeks and we shot one day.
Oh, well.
We shot one day and it was a brief scene involving the Zion dance party scene where they shoot Mythbusters, which is a disused Air Force hangar base in Oakland, just outside of San Francisco. So we were there for ages and ages, and they finally called us up. We're filming today, and we all went down there, thousands of extras, and a big, massive warehouse that had been converted into this cave, which was incredible. And then we sort of flew back to Sydney and did finish the rest of it in Sydney and Fox Studios and stuff like that. And the Wachowskis were pretty laid back, really, when they weren't fighting. Oh. When they were fighting, there was one day incredible. They were fighting like a couple of school kids, and we had to break in filming. They went off to their own corners, and their mother went and told them, "Get back there, and get back to work, and stop behaving like teenagers." And so they reluctantly came back to set. But they had a funny relationship. I mean, they had very clear intentions about what they wanted to do and a very clear vision for what they wanted to make. So, but they weren't incredible communicators with the actors. They just assumed that we knew what we were doing, which at that level, you get cast in a film that's big. You better know what you're doing. So
and something like that, how do you know what the fuck you're doing? Because it's like confusing.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, it is confusing, and I didn't fully understand the whole concept of the Matrix. I watched the first one and sort of went a bit over my head the first time I watched it, and so I had to watch it again. And after talking to a few people and understanding the red pill and blue pill stuff. And I still can't remember which is which. I think the red pill is the one where you stay in fantasy, and the blue No.
No, it's where you wake up.
The red pill, you're awake and you're awakened.
Yeah.
And the blue pill, you live in the fantasy created by society, well, by the
machine.
powers that be, the machines. Yeah.
Sorry, spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen
We
it.
haven't seen it. Yeah.
It might help you actually, not spoil it. It may actually very much help you.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's funny because again, a lot of those concepts are, we're starting to live with in our daily lives. The idea that maybe there's a machine running everything and we're living in a simulation is not that far-fetched with the way AI is going.
Yeah, sorry about it. But it does speak of what we hear a lot is hurry up and wait.
Yes, yeah. There was a lot of that on set, yeah. So it was amazing how much time and money they had. I remember there was one sequence where we in the Matrix and we're coming out of the building, and this is just before my crew and I die. We're coming out of this building and into this sewer, and the Wachowskis didn't like the way the light reflected on the water. They wanted a different pattern of light on the water. So that was a whole day's filming, and it would have cost, over a couple of $100,000 Australian to shoot that day. They canned it, and we went back and rescheduled it and shot another whole day just for literally 3 seconds of screen time.
Secretly, I do admire that, though, because it's visionary. They know what they want.
Well, they were very specific. They knew exactly what they wanted. And if you got the money to do that, good luck to you. But I found that a bit extravagant, really, because nobody fucking noticed the lighting on the water,
Oh, no, trust nerds out there. They notice every little detail.
Yeah.
You could post a random screenshot from any movie that has a huge fan base and go, there's an Easter egg in this shot that you haven't noticed. They will spend days trying to find it. And you're like, guys, I was just pulling your leg.
And often those things are just MacGuffins created by the filmmaker because they haven't got a solution for the scene. Like the whole briefcase thing in Pulp Fiction for Tarantino. There's reams of internet Reddit columns coming out of my proverbial with what that meant. And what it really meant was he had no fucking idea. It was a MacGuffin. It was just like there was nothing in the fucking briefcase. It was a metaphor for, his soul or whatever, But there's reams of theories about what that was. And it was just a device. It was a device to create the drama around it. So it's interesting how people run with it, and the audience will often interpret things of great importance that aren't necessarily there, but are significant to them or hold meaning for them. And that's what's the beauty of storytelling is it's not just the storyteller, the filmmaker, the playwright, actors delivering their story. It's how it lands on the audience in such an individual way, and they create their own meaning from it.
That's it. It's how that light lands on the water, Steve.
It's beautiful. That's it. Exactly. Bringing it back to that. Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, speaking of leather pants and emos, we'll move on to the metal now. Have you had much experience with metal, heavy metal, glam metal, et al.?
No, not really, man. I grew up with Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and all those bands, Black Sabbath. They were played regularly in my household because my sisters had teenage delinquent boyfriends. So that music was around. I liked AC/DC at the time, and I liked the glam rock of the 70s, like bands like Sherbet and, Fox on the Run and all those old songs. They hold special meaning for me again, because they sort of time and place, the roller rink at Brunswick, roller skate around with those songs playing. And you'd hold some girl's hand, and it was interesting times. But I've never been a huge fan of heavy metal. Rage Against the Machine, I don't mind. Bands that sort of cross over to sort of have that sort of funk aspect. I'm into sort of funk and soul were really my thing. I don't want to say R&B because R&B now means something totally different than it did when I was growing up.
It's like the Temptations and stuff like that.
That's right. That's when I say R&B, I mean Smokey Robinson and Temptations, the Commodores, Marvin Gaye, people like that. So, I like the heavy funk as well, like, George Clinton and James Brown and Sly and the Family Stone, that stuff. I like all that stuff. By the same token, I can appreciate some heavy metal music. Like I said, Rage Against the Machines kind of has got weird sort of hybrid crossover. Lenny Kravitz sometimes plays some heavy stuff, like it can be seen as not heavy metal exactly, but rock and roll-y. I've got a friend who's into death metal. He's into the real... Mm-hmm. And he's a great singer in that genre, and he's amazing. He's really knowledgeable about music, and as often people who play in heavy metal bands are quite musically very literate and gravitate towards classical music and things like that.
Yep.
He's one of those guys where you go, what the fuck is that? That's horse shit. What are you doing? I can't even understand a word you're saying. You're just screaming. And he goes, yeah, I can appreciate what it is, but it doesn't work for me. But yeah, so sorry.
No, don't apologize to me. I've done 135 episodes episodes of this shit, Steve. I'm Team Musical.
Yeah.
No, some of it I've loved.
Your Team Musical, yeah.
I've given some albums 5 stars. I gave one album 6 stars.
Wow, that's the equivalent of turning it up to 11, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of heavy metal.
Yeah. Now, if you could pick your ultimate, craziest, most over-the-top rock star rider, what would you put in it?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my limited experience of being in a rock musical, the rider would have involved copious amounts of certain Colombian things.
Cigars.
That's right.
Colombian cigars.
That's right. Yeah, Colombian chocolate. It would have been that back in the day. Today, it would be a different thing. I guess I like really good food. Yeah, look, I would have. Are you talking about a functional rider or just a wacky?
Oh no, we're talking about so ridiculous that it would never happen, but still, we want to entertain the idea.
Okay, so all right.
Like elephants and...
All right, so purple flying fish roe on oysters with blue M&Ms.
Yep, prepared by a personal chef.
That's right. And a cocktail of wild cherry and Java coffee excreted by the bums of monkeys.
Freshly excreted on site.
Freshly excreted.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And then served chilled with a cold drip of this coffee straight into the vein.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, the cherry would give it that sort of slightly sleep aid kind of thing. The black cherry juice makes you a bit tired. So it would be like this sort of natural speedball from hell.
No one's given anything, not alcohol or even coffee, through an IV drip yet.
Yeah, well, it's only a matter of time.
Very impressed.
Mangosteen. I love mangosteen. I've got a thing about mangosteens. They're beautiful. They're just the perfect fruit, but they are ridiculously expensive and they're hard to get, and they're very seasonal.
Yeah,
you have to import them from Thailand or Sumatra or somewhere, and they can be like $5 each for a little fruit. They're that big. But mangosteen is a unique flavor. It's like the perfect fruit.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love fresh mangosteen. So that would be my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have a half moldy mandarin sitting here if I get hungry. And you're talking about these exotic fruits. Anyways, we're going to move on now, because this week I blindly chose Prophets of Rage's self-titular album, Prophets of Rage. So with J-Wags out, I scrapped my review that I was halfway through writing, and I did my pros and cons instead, which is what I do when I'm solo. So feel free to shout at the screen if you disagree. Now let me just make sure we are Prophets of Rage, not Prophets of Doom. Yes. Okay. So the first pro, it starts off with ska, and I'm very excited by that because I do love my ska. But the con was there was not so much metal. The next pro was lyrically it was gripping and socially relevant, rhythmically solid. But the next con is it wasn't very threatening. But the next pro is it wasn't very threatening. So the next con is they're a super group, not necessarily a band that got together and sort of found their sound. So it's sort of I don't want to say like a novelty, but like I don't think they went beyond this one album. So I thought that was a con. But the next pro is that they struck lightning in a bottle. Con was there's still not much metal, but the next pro is that the lyrics are very poignant. Next con is the first half is softer, but the pro is that the second half does pick up. But the con is that it was a bit new metal and hard rock when it did. Overall, it was an incredible one shot from a group of icons, and the standouts were Living on the 110, Hail to the Chief, and Take Me Higher, though the latter was very hip hop. I feel like that's where they leaned more in the rap metal tag than the metal. So I still gave it 4 stars, but metal it was not. And I was left a little bit disappointed by that. What I heard, I loved.
Yeah.
Had I just come across it out of the context of this show, I would have gone crazy for it because there's some really great songs on there. But in terms of what I signed up for, what I made myself sign up for, what I created to sign up for, is I do want to be threatened at the same time as these things be accessible. I do want things to be hard and fast, but there just wasn't enough here for me. So
yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like, even though that song, the initial one, the title track was, power to the people, fuck the man, all that sort of stuff. It didn't have the aggression behind it that you would normally associate with that kind of vibe. It was a little polished.
Yeah.
Which, look, I didn't mind it either, but I agree with what you said. It lacked the jeopardy and danger that you expect from that kind of thing.
Yeah, especially you expect from Tom Morello, who is from Rage Against the Machine, who are not polite.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that. But there you go. Okay, that explains their sound, because I thought, well, these guys are trying to do a Rage Against the Machine. There you
Yeah.
go. They are Rage Against the Machine.
Made up of 3 members from Rage Against the Machine and 2 from Audio Slave, I believe.
Right. That's about the extent of my knowledge of metal music, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And 2 members of Public Enemy, sorry.
Okay.
No, and Be Real from Cypress Hill.
Right. So again, their metal credentials are not, you wouldn't call them authentic metal. Hardcore metalheads will probably go, who? Those guys aren't metalheads. That's the kind of metal. I don't mind that, because again, rhythmically, it sort of leans into rap or funk, that it's got that driving backbeat, which I quite like.
It had soul.
Yeah, a little bit.
It had soul. Not a lot of metal has soul. It does feel very soulless, or like it's trying to steal our souls.
Yeah, that's right. It's the antithesis of soul.
Yeah, so like as I say, it was great what I heard. Some of the lyrics were a bit repetitive.
Yeah, I thought that too, yeah.
What song was I specifically wrote down? Fired a Shot.
Right.
I thought that could have used a little bit more lyrics. I was disappointed. I thought Legalize Me was about gay marriage. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally relate to that. Let's do this album. And then I heard it, I'm like, no, that's not about me at all.
No, yeah, it was interesting to me too, that Legalized Me, because I'm thinking, okay, so they're spruiking about, fuck the man, the benefits of legalizing drugs and marijuana in particular. And then you go, well, hang on, addiction is the biggest prison and keeps us all in servitude. So what you're doing is going, all right, yeah, get into weed or get into some addictive sort of thing that's going to keep you enslaved and turn you into a zombie and be able to be controlled even more, which is counter the whole message of rebellion and being hip to what's going on with the man and establishment, and fuck them all. Let's raise up and be free and raise our voices. It's like, well, not many people smoking cones are getting off the couch to cause a revolution,
No, but they didn't call it that. They didn't call it legalized weed or legalized drugs. They called it legalized me.
Yeah.
So there is that identifiable thing there in what you're saying, that in terms of that slavitude. So that's like, it was a good song.
Yeah, it's all right.
It was a good song. It threw me off, because I was like, oh wow, good on them. They're like totally gay rights. Yes. But no, it wasn't. Thank you for that disappointment. So like it was an enjoyable listen, and I probably would, if they had a second album, I would have checked them out again on this show. Like, just wasn't hard enough. It's the oxymoron of doing this show. I'm like, no, not metal. But then I'm like, oh, it's not metal enough. Oh, God,
well, by virtue of it, you become a bit of a connoisseur of, well, you know what you like anyway.
Yeah. And I'm also like, I have to listen to these albums 10, 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
Because I'll just put the playlist on and listen to the playlist all the way through.
Yeah.
And I'll do that on repeat for days and days on end. So I have to be able to sit with the music. I have to be able to do that, because if I am sitting here wanting to skip tracks.
Yeah. I admire your commitment to your craft, mate, because for me, it was like the skip button was my friend on that album.
Yeah. So what would you give it out of 5 then?
Oh, 2.
Yeah. As a regular album, loved it. As a metal.
Yeah. Wasn't my thing.
I want to be threatened, people. And we did a rap, it was sort of a ska metal album recently, and I think that got 5 stars. That was a really, really good album. So I was sort of hoping, and with this pedigree of icons from these bands, you'd think that, maybe if they had have done more, maybe, but anyways.
Yeah, I used to enjoy a bit of ska when I was younger. I used to go and see some bands in and around Fitzroy and Thornbury and places like the Loaded Dog and the Metropole Hotel. They used to have ska bands play there. Like, I really liked Strange Tenants, which were a local band, which were great ska outfit, really great brass section and get the crowd rocking. And I used to enjoy a bit of ska.
That's what I was doing when you were filming The Matrix.
Oh, okay. Right. I'm talking about 80, 81.
Actual at the time of the music, not 10 years later, and we had to argue that punk's not dead.
Yeah, that's right. I was there first time around. I'm that old, but it was an amazing time, really. The music scene in Melbourne was incredible. Amazing bands, Bachelors from Prague, Relax with Max, all those bands were doing live gigs in Melbourne, and really incredible. I grew up, I remember as a kid going to Melbourne Uni and seeing In Excess, Midnight Oil, the Sunny Boys, Australian Crawl, all these these bands would play in venues and there'd be a couple of hundred people there, but they were just emerging. Like In Excess were a new band, Sunny Boys were a new band. And, we didn't sort of know at the time that we were witnessing, sort of the pioneers of Australian rock and roll, really. Like, it goes back further than that. But those were the bands that sort of really influenced The Church, bands like that, really incredible to see them in. And I only look back and go, wow, I saw those guys when they were developing, they were emerging.
Yeah.
Incredible time to be alive, I just think, this generation, I'm sounding like an old guy, but it's tragic to think that this generation, a lot of them will never see a live band. They'll never experience the joy of being in a mosh pit or just being, taken away with the enthusiasm of the audience and the band and the energy of coming off the stage, so.
Yeah, and look, even if they're there at the concerts, they're on their phones.
That's right. Yeah, fucking crazy.
They're watching the concerts through their fucking phones.
Drives me insane. That drives me nuts.
What are you doing? Be in the moment.
And they don't watch it back, so they miss the moment and they miss the replay because they never watch it back.
That's it. It's all for the likes.
Yeah, I've done that. I've been at a concert and found myself videotaping or, a performance of something, or videotape the start of a movie or whatever, and you go, I've never reviewed it on my phone. So I missed it in the moment and I completely missed it in the repeat of it. So it's insane.
Anyways, it looks like the profits are raging for an ad break, so we'll be back after this.
Hello there, my name is Caroline Sheen, and I've just started an exciting new podcast called Talk Musicals to Me, where I'll be sitting down with some of the biggest names and industry players in musical theatre, including Olivier and Tony Award winners, West End and Broadway icons, and celebrated composers, as they discuss the musicals that have resonated most with them, both professionally and personally, sharing their most cherished musical memories. Join me on this journey through the fantastic musical theatre world and the people who inhabit it. And here is an exclusive sneak peek. He is my old boss from Mary Poppins. He's the man who gave The Lion King to the world. He's the chief creative officer of Disney Theatrical. He is Mr. Tom Schumacher. Tom, welcome back to London and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me.
Well, I'm tickled to be here, and I'm tickled to be here live, not on Zoom. We're pioneering this for you.
We are. This is a new thing for me.
So that means you had to get dressed for this call.
I did. I'm not in my pajamas.
That's good. Okay.
And I have proper shoes on, which is
well, there we have it.
Thank you so much. So Tom doesn't have a huge amount of time because he's here with Hercules and they are literally rehearsing on the stage behind the doors I'm looking at. So there's a lot going on. So let's crack on. Tom, what was the first musical you ever met? How did you first meet to musical theatre?
My mother, who was born in 1928 and grew up in Napa, California. She was born in Napa, California. She, for whatever reason, loved musicals. She didn't go to a lot of musicals, but she loved the cast albums. So in my house as a child, early on, I have the distinct memory of listening to The Sound of Music, the original stage version with Mary Martin, and of course, Carol Channing, the original stage version of Hello, Dolly, and Robert Preston in The Music Man. And when you were sick at home and you couldn't go to school, my mother would put on those musicals. And we would listen to them on the stereo needle drop record. And those were huge to me. But then there's two ways of meeting. Those are the ones that I encountered just as a listener. But to encounter it by doing it, the first thing I ever did like that was actually the operetta Hansel and Gretel by Engelbert Humperdinck, who everybody thinks Engelbert Humperdinck was a singer in the 60s, but he actually stole the name from a composer. I think it was written in the late 1890s or something. And I played the father in that, and I can still sing a few tunes from it, but not for you today.
Not today. Do you know what? I did Hansel and Gretel in school. It was like a school's version.
Yeah.
They were the original Humperdinck songs. I love that we have that in common.
And then the first musical that actually knocked me over that I met on film was the beautiful, beautiful original film, 1969 was it, version of Oliver. And then Oliver changed my life completely. I saw the world through the lens of that show for a very long time.
I love Oliver. I did that in school as well. And I was saying to another guest on the podcast, it's one of those shows, there is no song that you skip on the cast album. Every single song is what they say in the UK. I don't know if it would work in an American accent, but we would call it a banger.
Yeah.
Every song is a banger. And I just think that score, that timeless story is just so special. And it doesn't feel like it doesn't belong in Victorian London. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it was written in the 60s.
Yeah, I bizarrely became friends with Lionel Bart during the last probably 10 years of his life. And I would see him quite a bit. And I remember telling him about how much that meant to me to see the original film. And then I've done a stage production. I've been around it a lot. I played Charlie Bates in a production who only has one line, which is, "These sausages are moldy." And Fagin then shouts at him, "Shut up and drink your gin." And Lionel and I would act this out all the time. He would say, "Say it. Say it." Sometimes in the theater, I'd hear someone behind me say, "Say it." It was Lionel sitting behind me. He'd call on the phone and just do it. I think it's so timeless because of the way Lionel composed, because he didn't, play. So he would sing next to someone at the piano and they would. So the songs have a purity to them and they're not overcomplicated or showy. And I think that kind of stripped down quality of those songs lingers with us. And actually, almost anybody can sing those songs. So you carry them in your heart, not unlike our mutual friend Richard Sherman's songs, right? The Sherman Brothers wrote like Lionel. They're simple songs, They're
singable, aren't they? People will leave the building singing them, and that would be incredible.
So I didn't have one. I had a lot of things.
No, that's great.
I met so many all at the same time.
So when you met Oliver, were you that age? Were you an Oliver age?
Yes, yeah. And I wanted to be one of Fagin's boys.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in that movie. I wanted to be with those kids. And the dark side of it didn't scare me. I just wanted the companionship of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, seeing it on stage was such a revelation.
Growing up in America, did you feel like that was a very British story? Did you feel like it spoke to you? What did it feel like, a different world?
It was so odd because people tell me today that Oliver is here what Annie is in America. And that's a kind of a commonly said thing, that Oliver doesn't really work in America. But I just love it. But I've never felt that divide.
Yeah.
I recognize, because I've spent so much of my life traveling, I sort of feel at home wherever I make a friend, and that show was my friend.
Oh, I love that. It goes for like boys and girls as well, I think. Oliver is to boys what Annie is to girls. I grew up wanting to be Annie. I just loved it, and it was full of girls, and they were crazy and rebellious and a rabble.
I love a production. The more crazy the girls are in Hard Knock Life, I know I'm going to be happy if they're like really like messy little girls when no boys are judging them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So...
We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron. That's not Mr. J-Wags. And we're catching up with local surf sensation Steve Bastoni. Now, speaking of surfing, it's now an Olympic sport, which I think is amazing. So if the performing arts had an Olympics for amateur artists, which events would you want to watch people competing at? And what discipline would you compete at to win gold?
Theatre sports would be a good one. Olympic theatre sports and improv would be my thing. I remember doing a theatre sports thing. We actually won the championship one year, my team. So that was pretty fun. And I mean, that's what I started drama at high school because there was girls doing the class and lots of girls doing the class, very few guys doing the class.
I've heard this before. Either I've heard this from you before or I've heard this from someone before.
Yeah, it was considered a bludge subject, and I liked the idea of a bludge subject and an opportunity to meet girls. So a lot of it was just showing off and making up shit. And like I would do piss takes of commercials and make up a product and sell this product. Improv was always in my blood, and I always liked the idea of coming up with stuff, creating something out of nothing. And I don't think I'm particularly great at it, but I do enjoy it. Like some people are just incredible at it. You see their mind just in full flight and you go, wow, these people are just processing at a rate that is just incredible. There's a guy on social media who creates raps on the spot. He's a rapper and just comes up with things on the spot. He'll get people to give him 5 words and he'll create a rap around it, but it's just incredible. Like the rate at which he processes information and the way he spits it out is just incredible. It's very creative, and it takes a kind of special kind of mind to be that free and fearless, because you're saying it as fast as you're thinking it almost, so it's a scary place to be because a lot of the things that go on in my mind are not fit for public consumption.
Guilty.
So to actually put yourself in a position where you're sort of unfiltered and just spitting at a stream of consciousness rate is kind of exciting and scary, and that's what I mean. I love that stuff.
Yes, no, it terrifies me. Last episode we had both the Umbilical Brothers.
Brilliant.
So 2 hilarious Australia's top comedians.
Yeah, brilliant.
And Jonathan as my co-host.
Yeah.
So there's me, who I'm pretty funny, I guess. I would say I am. People tend to laugh at me. I hear the laughter, so I would say yes. I'm a comedy writer. I write comedy plays.
Yeah.
It was still intimidating to be sitting there with these three incredible comedy minds and trying to keep up and make them laugh at the same time as them making me laugh. But I'm really hard to make laugh. It's very, very hard to get me to crack up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very, very, very intimidating. But I know what you mean in terms of being vulnerable and maybe saying the wrong thing, because I swear a lot.
Yeah. It is intimidating, and working with those people in that environment, it's so important that you aren't intimidated to the point of shutting down or doubting yourself.
Yeah. And I didn't at all.
Yeah, what's funny about is, having the courage to actually go, I don't care if I fall on my face and make a fool of myself. I'm just going to go for it. And then you're inviting inspiration to come to you. But if you're sort of second guessing yourself or trying to compete or keep up with the others, then you're bound to fuck up, because you can't have that pressure. Creativity demands freedom. And if you put that kind of pressure on yourself, the self-consciousness will kill you every time. So it's a difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
How do you not become aware of other people's brilliance around you? How do you shut that out or get inspired by it and take it in and go, wow, okay, I'm going to fly with these guys? It takes a special leap of the imagination to get into that space. So
yeah, it really does. But you know what? Part of doing those introductions is to humiliate myself, to make people laugh and to relax them and all that. And so with them, I got like 2 pages in and I couldn't get through a sentence and I kept stumbling it up. And then I had them egging me on. And then I flew through the rest of it. So it, like, any doubts that I had, they go out as soon as I turn on that Zoom.
Yeah.
And as soon as that guest comes in and I step up to perform.
That is a really smart process, because what you're doing essentially is de-egifying, if that's a word. You're taking away the ego and you're going, I'm happy, I'm willing to make a fool of myself. So you can't hurt me after that.
Exactly.
It's all upside after that.
Yeah.
I remember James Dean saying in an interview that in Giant, he had a scene, there was 1,000 extras. He was terrified, and he literally turned around and had a pee on a tree in front of everybody. And they said, why did you do that? And he said, I was just so nervous. I thought after embarrassing myself like that, I could do anything. Yeah. And I thought, there's something in that. There's something in it, because it's our ego that keeps us, in the place of fear. And we go, fuck, I don't want to make a fool of myself. Oh, I'm going to get found out of being a fraud. All that stuff. Every actor, every person has that stuff, that hypercritical mind, the inner critic, or whatever you want to call it. We've got that stuff that can be crippling. But once you diffuse it by going, you know what, I'm actively going to try and embarrass myself here in order to free myself up and let you guys know that I don't take myself that seriously and we can just have fun.
Exactly.
That's a cool thing. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. Yeah. So well done.
And especially since you guys are coming to our house.
Yeah.
And, I don't mean to, I always have to on this show when it's recording, blow smoke up people's ass, but we do have icons and legends like yourself on this show. And it is very intimidating. To have a Dame on this show, to have Tony Award winners.
Yeah.
But immediately I'm like, I know who I am, right? They're either going to love me or they're going to hate me. And I'm just going to be the dorky self that I am, and straight away. And so there's never really any awkward moments with a guest. We'll have to warm them up, yes, and that's what the introduction does. That's the other thing. It relaxes people, it warms them up, and they're able to come in laughing. They're astounded at what we've just done. So it is, in a little bit of a way, it is a manipulation, I guess, of the situation to calm you down.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
We want to come in with something fun, and we want you guys to feel safe.
Yeah.
Full stop. We want you to feel safe. You're in our house here. So anyways, we're blowing smoke up my ass now.
That's so good.
I have another question. No, hang on. I've got 2 more questions. I was going to ask, do you still have your gold Speedos from Rocky Horror? But I don't want to give us all nightmares. So instead, have you ever seen a theater ghost?
Oh, look, I have never seen a theater ghost. Oh. I don't have those gold jocks anymore, the lame pants. Oh. I had them up until maybe 10 years ago, and I found them in a storage box. I was like, why am I holding on to this shit? I had those, and I had the wristband, the gold wristband, and I had them in like a keepsakes box, but I just got rid of a lot of stuff. I kind of...
I mean, you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I have done a lot of stuff, but nostalgia is an interesting thing. It can be a double-sided sword in that, looking back and holding on to past achievements and memories and highlights regrets and stuff can keep me trapped in the past. It's okay to be proud of what you've done. I am proud of what I've done, but I don't need to keep going back there and going, oh, this is who I am. I mean, my identity is being forged every day, and I think that the future is exciting for me, and what I do tomorrow is more important to me than what I did yesterday.
But not as important as now. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Tomorrow doesn't exist. You're absolutely right. So what I do today is more important than what I did yesterday. Yeah. So, you're only as good as your last sort of hit or whatever. So, and it's interesting. My kids, at once I was sort of kidding myself that they might be interested in stuff about, what I did. They don't care. They might be interested in it one day. They're busy, got their own lives, So, they say I play dress-ups for a living. So.
Well, you do. You do.
Yeah, I do. And I enjoy it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it keeps the inner child alive. And I've got a few, clippings and things that I've kept, posters and things of shows I've done. And it's interesting. You see them sometimes, oh, wow, I remember that. I did that, And I might not think of that ever again, like I might not think of that stuff. And so sometimes it's good to have those things. But I had a pair of socks that I wore in a play, and I kept those socks for ages, and they had holes in them, and they were meant to be ratty socks. And I kept those for a play I did called The Dreamer Examines His Pillow, which you mentioned in your brilliant pun fest at the start. And I found those in a box. And I was like, why am I fucking keeping these holy socks? Like, you get rid of stuff. And I'm not at the point where I could put them on eBay and make a fortune. So they don't mean that much to me. I don't think it mean much to anyone else. So.
Those gold Speedos would have gotten at least a $5, and you know it.
Yeah, they probably would have. The gold Speedos might have made a couple of bucks. They were interesting. I mean, that was a crazy time, the Rocky Horror Show. They talk about safety, and they go through a lot of induction kind of stuff. When you do a play now, they talk about give everyone an opportunity to state their pronouns if they have them, and they talk about safety and sexual safety and intimacy coordinators and stuff like that. In those days, like I would jump around the stage and I would do a lap when I had to run down in the front row. And every night I would get groped on the crutch by at least 10 people in the front row. It was like, you're asking for it in those cold shorts, I mean, even just saying that aloud makes me cringe. But, it was just part of you were doing Rocky Horror Show. It was a play about sexual revolution. It was fucking crazy. It was out there. It was about sex. And if there was anyone in that cast that was prudish about it, well, they were in for a tough time, because there was no such thing as any of that stuff then. It was kind of a bit of a free-for-all. It was a bit of a Wild West. And to be honest, it didn't traumatize me. I don't have any regrets about it. I don't feel bad about it or weird about it. I kind of think back and go, wow, that was interesting. I mean, that was crazy. The audience participation in that on a sexual level was probably a little bit too much when I think back, But at the time, it was like water off a duck's back. You just sort of rolled with it. But these days, things are very, very different. I think people are a lot more easily offended these days. I'm always amazed at how easily offended people can be these days.
Yes. All right, always butting heads with people. Now, I want to see you play Javert one day. You would fucking kill. You would terrify the children as Javert in Les Mis. You got that booming voice for one thing, but your presence would just terrify. That's all.
Well, I would love to have a go at that.
Producers, hello, you listening?
Yeah. Producers, if you're listening.
But anyways, I'm just trying to find my review. I'd throw my notes around in excitement on this show. I do have my review or my pros and cons for Johnny. Hang on, what's it called? Sorry, Johnny and the Prophets.
Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom.
I do know that. I just can't find my thing. Because remember, I held it up and showed you.
Yeah.
Or said something about which one is which. Godfathers.
Yeah.
I wrote a joke which was making fun. Oh, here we go. Okay. Found it. Sorry, listeners at home, and sorry, Steve. Okay, so Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom, which I hadn't heard before. So the first pro is it's an Aussie musical. Hallelujah. The cons is Aussie accents. But the pro is they were non-obnoxious, non-put-on Aussie accents, which is something I have a huge problem with. This whole, we gotta sound Australian because we're doing a musical. No, you fucking don't. Shut up. Just talk in your normal accent, kids. It sounds great on this album.
Yeah.
Cons, I can't quite grab the narrative, but I did read up on Wikipedia. The pro is that the songs are a jam. The cons, why did it take me this long? Next pro is icons on this album album Deliver. The cons is the morals and the narrative is a little bit reminiscent of Tommy, so it doesn't really cover new ground apart from the Pope storyline. But the next pro is that it does sound nothing like Tommy. The next pro is that Steve Bastoni's got soul, but the con is I'm just a soul.
Wah, 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 wah.
Next cons is the change in rock genres can be jarring at first, but the pro is that it does actually come together as a solidly branded listen. 5 stars. I definitely enjoyed the faster songs more, but overall, this was a fantastic listening experience. It was brand new to me. I hadn't heard it apart from something I'm going to show you in a minute. I'd only heard like this mythological musical that had played in London and toured the UK, and it had yourself in it and Russell Crowe and Queen Nadine Gardner and Wendy Stapleton and Brian Mannix from the Uncanny X-Men, like this iconic cast. I've always known about the show. I'd probably even seen it advertised, just never listened to it. And I regret that it took me this long. This was the songs are fantastic. This is what I want from an Australian musical, something that sounds like an Australian musical.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of work, to be honest. It's not perfect, but God, it was an ambitious project. And Danny Abineri taught himself how to play piano and wrote it on the piano. And it was quite a genius, really. He wrote this thing in a few weeks and was just incredible. Like some of the songs were super catchy, real British kind of pop vibe, 60s kind of British pop stuff and some ska in there. And he had no idea about funk and everything. He'd say to me, what do you want to do? You know, what do you want to play in this? He goes, I've got this idea for the character and what kind of song do you want to do? And I knew his taste in music didn't extend. You know, he understood soul, but he understood Northern English soul, which is a lot more on the beat, whereas American soul is kind of sits deeper. It's funkier. So he had no idea about that stuff. So I had to literally sort of say the bass line, it should be driven by the bass line. It should be a fat, slow sort of rhythm, you know, like think of funk, think of slow. And I played him all the examples of, you know, James Brown and stuff like that. But his musical mind was just built differently. And the band on the, you know, live would always speed up and play it a lot faster than it should have been played. But I didn't actually like my song. I thought my song was the worst song on the album. I didn't like it at all.
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I got to choreograph it. I remember I was kind of pretty arrogant because I had a few moves. I used to go to discos and nightclubs and stuff, and I used to dance quite a lot. I enjoyed dancing. And so I had a few moves that I'd ripped off mainly from Michael Jackson and Bobby Brown. And
for the listeners at home, when Steve just said that he can dance and used to disco, my face lit up. My eyebrows hit the freaking ceiling. I'm like, what? I never knew this. And yes. Anyway.
So basically, I ripped off a couple of Bobby Brown and Michael Jackson moves and created my own. They hired a choreographer and she came in and she started doing all this sort of cheesy Madonna sort of type moves. And I said, no.
I resent that accusation. Madonna's moves are not cheesy. They are camp.
Well, her early ones, like Holiday and stuff, they were cheesy, you know. Anyway, it was like she was very in that vein and it was just wasn't real. I wasn't feeling it. And so I said to the choreographer, because I was pretty arrogant in those days, I thought I was hot shit. I said to the choreographer, sit down, I'll show you what I'm going to do. And she went, oh, yeah. Anyway, so I did the moves and then, you know, she said, oh, wow, that's really good, you know, and I said, thank you. And then she tweaked it and made it work even better and then choreographed the backup dancers. So yeah, it was really fun and I really enjoyed it. My routine, my song, performing that song was so much fun. Like I loved it every night. The production was incredible. Like the wardrobe, the lights, the set was so way ahead of their time. And you know, the money, it was a lot of money on stage. Like you just went, fuck, wow, this got the real wow factor.
Which is good for an original Australian musical.
Amazing. They spent $1 million on mounting it, which was a lot of money in the 80s, you know, and
it's like 20 million today, and they won't even do that in Australian musicals anymore.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. And it lost a ton of money.
Oh, did it?
Well, yeah, it did, because it was kind of controversial and the narrative was amazing. Like the story was incredible. The problem was that the whole story, and it was quite a complex story, was delivered through the song, as with most musicals.
See, I didn't get it.
Yeah, well, it was an amazing story, really, and a real dig at the Catholic Church based on, I think, Danny Abineri's personal experiences.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of social commentary about where we are in terms of the media, our influences, what matters, like songs things like have your say and are really very valid in what they're saying politically today. The kind of illusion that talkback radio, all that sort of stuff has, that what we say can be amplified based on the idea of Warhol's idea that every person's going to get their 15 minutes of fame and we have a chance to influence the world.
That was a suggestion, kids. It was a suggestion for us to have 15 minutes of fame. It was not a demand or a command.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we please stop with it? Please. Sorry. I've been dying to say that.
Yeah. It's become,
Like, it doesn't matter what you do for a job now, you're trying to become famous online for it. It's like, dude, I don't need to see you cleaning up dog shit at the vet, right? Just
That's right.
do your job, get paid for it, go home and live your life. Please stop putting it in my face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Make your omelette at home in private.
Yes.
I don't care.
Oh my God, fathers. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And everyone's trying to be that soundbite,
Yeah.
and everyone's trying to have that moment in the sun. And it does drive me nuts. Now, I just want to actually show you something. So I'm going to have to share my screen because I came across this actually a while ago. And it was only when I was doing this, preparing this episode, that I remembered it's there. So don't mind that picture. This is really, really random.
Witness the rise and fall of Bad Boy Johnny as he journeys to become the first rock and roll pope.
I want you, Johnny.
Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom, outrageous fun and satire, a rock and roll revelation. Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom,
Wow.
exploding at the Comedy Theatre. Book now.
Wow. That's the TV ad.
Yep.
Amazing.
So there's that one. And then there was this.
Wow.
Okay, sinners, we're gathered here today. Get down on your knees and ready to pray.
Witness the rise and fall of Bad Boy Johnny as he journeys to become the first rock and roll pope.
I want you, Johnny.
Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom, outrageous fun and satire, a rock and roll revelation. Bad Boy Johnny and the Prophets of Doom, exploding at the Comedy Theatre. Book now.
Wow. Look at that. That's incredible. Look, you can see the production value there. Look, I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredible, really. The money on stage was, we had Very Lights and we had the latest technology. The band we had was incredible. Like the guitarist, Paul Burton, is one of the best guitarists in Australia still. And the drummer, Gary Nottingham, one of the best in Australia. These are people who've played with everyone. Peter Crosby was a musical director. Incredible people on stage. Like the band we had was a super group, really. So when you had people like Wendy Stapleton and beautiful Troy Newman, God rest his soul, when they sang on stage with the band behind them, it was just incredible. It was like being in a rock gig every night,
And that's the album played
Yeah.
like that. These songs, that's what I always say, that it's not a scene of acting that gets you to buy a ticket. It's hearing a song on the radio from a musical that you're like, oh, what's that from? Oh, it's from West Side Story. Got to buy a ticket to West Side Story. It's the music that gets you in the door as much as it is the idea or a star.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And so the music has to be a selling point, full stop. And the music here was, as I say, I'm just kicking myself that it took me so long.
Oh, look, it was quite groundbreaking. I wish you could have seen it, Aaron, because I know you would have appreciated it. It was quite an incredible show. Now, I don't even know if there's any video. I haven't seen any video. Someone must have videoed it somewhere.
There's video of you as Rocky in Rocky Horror.
I know. Sadly.
Go look it up on YouTube, people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure Danny Aberneri's got some footage of it somewhere, but he would have released it by now.
Revive it. Someone revive it so I can send it. Just not a Chapel off Chapel. Give it a proper full production.
Yeah, well, we did. Chapel off Chapel was our workshop.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, we did it at a chapel in, it was actually a chapel. It wasn't even the chapel on chapel. It was a chapel in Hawthorne where we did the workshop in order to raise money for investors. And Russell Crowe was the original Johnny, and they didn't like his singing, so they sacked him. He got sacked, and Troy Newman took over.
Oh, goodness me. But it seems like Johnny is doomed to take an ad break. We'll be back after this. From the producers of Thrash and Treasure, around the world in 80 plays, starring the adorable Lizzie B and Alfie Parker, and featuring the star of the show, Dolly the dog, they'll take you for a trip around the UK, exploring the rich arts and cultural history. But here is a sneak peek.
Bonjour, Days. I'm Lizzie B.
And I'm Alfie Parker.
And we're joined, as always, by our doggy diva, co-host, travel buddy, and fur baby, Dolly. So, what did Dolly do? This week, there is no What Did Dolly Do section, is there, Alfie, which is normally your segment.
It is normally my segment, but it's not there.
But it's for an exciting reason, because this week we have picked up a hitchhiker. She is a bright light of the West End stage who has been seen in The Beautiful Game, one of our favourite musicals ever, Young Frankenstein, which also we both loved, Only Fools and Horses,
which is an absolute bucket list show of mine.
Wicked. I've never heard of that one. Have you heard of Wicked?
Is that new?
I don't know. Must be new writing. The 39 Steps, Taboo, and more, including her recent stint as the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz at the London Palladium. Have you heard of The Wizard of Oz?
Is that also new?
I don't. But today, she's conjuring up some wickedly funny little stories from her adventures in the national tours of Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Beauty and the Beast, and she was also perfect in Cats. I wish I could roll my R's. That would have been way better, wouldn't it? That was very disappointing. Perfect. That was much more. It's sort of Halloween-y, so it's fine. Anyway, luckily, tonight's the night we get a masterclass from this Cinderella because, mamma mia, it's Diane Pilkington. Hello, Diane. How are you?
I'm good. That was fantastic. Amazing.
I feel like some of the delivery was definitely questionable, but I gave it my all. I did it with gumption, which is all we can ask.
It was perfect. Perfect.
See, you can do it. Neither of us can roll our R's. Perfect. So, Diane.
Yes.
What has life been like since you returned from Oz?
It has been life. I mean, to be honest, it was a pretty big, should I say whirlwind? Is that cheesy? It was. I mean, it was crazy schedule, amazing people, amazing job. I absolutely loved it. But I was so broken by the end of it, like more broken than having been on tour. I can't even explain why. I was on stage for about 17 minutes, but I think being evil is really, really hard work. So I've just been, well, not just been, I have been being a mummy, and my little boy's just gone into year 6. He's really, I think kids really need support this year. So I've been doing that. And going and seeing shows.
Been all the things we can never do when we're working.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And I've been relying on the good grace of friends and ex-colleagues for getting me in to see shows, because obviously the other thing we can't do when we're not working is afford to do shows as well. So it's a toss-up, isn't it? You can either afford to go but you've got no time, or you've got loads of time but you're like, really, can I afford 150 quid to go and see that?
Have you seen anything amazing recently?
Yeah, oh my god. I mean, I went to see The Little Big Things. That was amazing. I went to see Diversity last night. I went to watch the lovely Ashley Banjo in Diversity at Aylesbury, and oh my god, that was brilliant. It was brilliant. And tonight we're going to go and watch Jersey in Sunset Boulevard. Come on.
This is what I'm so excited for. I have a ticket for a couple of weeks' time. I'm literally so excited.
Me too. I actually I texted Caroline Sheen this morning going, the day is here. So we're looking forward to that one. Bit of a date night.
Oh, and she did a really amazing interview, I think, on the One Show last night, where she was talking about being in theatre and how she's got a newfound respect for it and how hard it is and the amount of work, and she feels like she's like an athlete. So I think that's really good for people to hear someone like her kind of talking about it and being really honest about the amount of work that goes into it.
Absolutely, that's really great to hear, because it is, and I think we take it for granted that we do those 8 shows a week, and you bust a gut and your voice holds out, and you train and all that kind of thing until it all goes wrong and you get an injury or so, and then you suddenly realize how hard it actually is. Because what I find, and I'm getting on a bit now, so I'm a bit older than I used to be, things don't heal quite as quickly, and what I find now is that if my knee goes, then you can guarantee it won't just be the knee. I'll work on that, and then the hip flexor will go because I'm trying to do something, and it's just really punishing, isn't it? Especially doing what you guys are doing at the moment, touring. It is hard work, but brilliant. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. There's a great payoff, but it's nothing to be sneezed at.
We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, and we're dragging Steve Bastoni through our torture chamber today. That's not how I wrote it. And being dragged through the torture chamber today is the iconic Steve Bastoni. Now, you do a lot of things incredibly well, but what's one normal, everyday thing which you suck at?
What do I suck at? Oh, I have to think really hard about this one, Aaron.
So do a lot of our guests, apparently.
I suck at procrastination is one of my weaknesses. I'm a professional procrastinator. I hate doing taxes. I hate doing bookwork. I hate doing menial stuff. I can get lost in housework and cooking. I don't like folding laundry. I'll do the laundry, but I'm not going to fucking fold it.
Yep.
I hate folding it.
I don't like the ironing.
I can do towels. Yeah, I can do towels. But I don't like folding anything else other than towels.
You haven't seen my Jenga pile. My Jenga pile of clothes here. Most of it like half clean. So
Yeah.
no, I'm the same.
Staying calm in traffic, I'm not good at.
Yep.
I've got lots of, we could
Yep.
be here all day, Aaron. I've got lots of character defects.
Awesome. That's what I love to hear. We love to humanize our guests. Now, you've played a few factual criminals. So when taking on real life persons who may have perhaps gotten themselves a bit of a reputation in the real world, what approach do you have in terms of portraying someone who is not only evil, but needs to be layered and needs to be able to be understood by us? I don't want to use the term empathy because apparently we're not allowed to use that with villains anymore. But does that get difficult not judging them on occasions?
Yeah. I think it's easy to sort of paint pictures of black and white and good guys and bad guys and all that stuff. But the challenge as an actor is always to try and find the humanity in the character. There's very few people that are actually really evil. Most people are just done dumb shit. They've done bad shit. And generally, they're remorseful for it if they're not psychopaths. I've spoken to a forensic psychologist about this. I said, do you believe that there's such thing as just real unredeemable evil people? And he said, yeah, there is. He said, I've only come across two in my life, but he said they are people who they're beyond rehabilitation. They have no empathy, no feeling, no humanity at all. They're just born evil. And so that was interesting. And that was Tim Watson Monroe, who's a famous psychologist who's written a lot of books, Shrink in the Clink, which was fantastic. And he's interviewed all the psychopaths and killers and criminals, including, Chopper Reed and Alphonse and all the big ones, and a lot of ones we've never heard of too. But yeah, he said that the evil does exist. There's people who are just born evil, which was interesting to me because I didn't think that, but I'll take his word for it. He's very, very experienced forensic psychologist. So, I try and find the humanity in characters. There's very few. Sometimes it's fun to play the evil side of the characters. The great thing about being an actor is you can do all kinds of crazy actions without any consequences in the real world,
Once upon a time.
Well, yeah, and it's weird because sometimes, people can't distinguish between character and the person.
Yeah, especially soap actors.
Yeah, that's right.
When you share a name with your soap character like you did on Neighbours.
Yeah, the line can get blurred. I had a woman, I remember when my character on Police Rescue was going through gambling and a domestic violence thing. I had this old Greek woman chase me around Marrickville Metro going, why you do this, Angel? What happened to you? You used to be a good boy. It was crazy. She just chasing me around and I had to try and explain to her. She just wasn't hearing it. She wasn't having it, So, yeah, it's a weird thing. It can blur the line.
Yeah. And look, I can kind of get it in terms of soap operas because they're 5 days a week.
Yeah, people feel they know you.
Yeah, people feel, but they are only half an hour out of a day. So there's that. I'm like, I get it, but I don't get it. I know American soap opera actors have it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious me. Now, what is it about a role or a project that would terrify and entice your creative instincts to the point that you just can't say no to the challenge? Because you sing, you dance, apparently, so that wouldn't terrify you.
No, but theatre terrifies me. I love
Yeah.
theatre, but it's scary. It's no particular role. I don't think there's any particular role that would terrify me other than maybe, Hamlet or something Shakespearean. I've only done one thing around Shakespeare, and that was the movie of Macbeth.
Sam Worthington.
Yeah, that was terrifying. But yeah, theatre terrifies me. Stand-up comedy terrifies me. There's no particular role that I would go, ooh, I'm not going to do that. I'd have a crack at anything, mate.
Yeah.
I'll have a crack at anything. I might not be any good at it. For instance, I don't think I can get away with being the English country gentleman. I could do Cockney. I can do a Cockney, all right. There's no problems there, governor.
Yeah.
But, to do the hoity-toity, toity-poloity, that would be quite another matter, dear Alan.
Can you do plummy?
I can't do plummy, darling. I can't do plummy, darling. Oh, Bobbity, I could do plummy, but I don't think I'd be accepted in that realm.
You could do it in voice acting. You can voice acting.
That's right. There's voice acting. I could do that. I could get away with that,
Yeah.
voice acting in a cartoonish thing. But yeah.
Now, who's been your most generous scene partner to date, and why was it Adam Baldwin?
Well, it's funny. I didn't actually have any scenes with Adam.
Oh, didn't you?
No.
Oh, sorry. I still haven't seen it. All these years of knowing both of you, I still haven't fucking seen
It's
it.
somewhere on YouTube or something.
No, I can't find it. I've never been able
It is. It's on.
Is it?
Oh, it's on there. Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
YouTube, but it's called something else. It's called Year of the Tiger? Year of the Tiger.
Something. It was either Tiger or Dragon.
Yeah.
Because I know I had looked for it a few times.
I think it's called Year of the Tiger or Year of the
Something.
Tiger.
Yeah. Of Tiger.
Yeah, it was called Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And then it was called Year of the Tiger. I played a Chicago cop. Francis Ford Coppola executive produced that. It wasn't a great film, to be honest.
That doesn't matter. I've seen a lot of Adam's films. I love the guy, that. I've seen a lot of his films.
Yeah.
Not all of them are the best, but they're camp.
Yeah.
The camp is tits. Like that Gargantua that he did in Sydney with the dinosaur. That was so terrible, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. And look, I know actors take on projects that don't always turn out the best. How's that relationship for you when you see something that you think, oh, Godfathers, I have to smile now and thank the director for giving me this opportunity. And yes.
Yeah, look, these days I don't really watch what I do much anymore. I just do it. I enjoy the process of doing it, and I figured, I gave it my best shot. I'm inevitably disappointed when I watch stuff back. I go, I know what I was going for, but that's not it, I like watching other people's work, friends of mine and stuff like that. I love watching their work and seeing what they do, and it's inspiring, but I don't like watching my own stuff. It doesn't really help me. I become overcritical, and I just find it's easier, just more pleasurable and enjoyable for me just to do the work. And, sure, sometimes the curiosity gets the better of me. If I think I did something good, or if I did something really shit in a scene, I'll go, I'm just going to watch that little bit back. And inevitably, it's never as good or as bad as I thought it was. So I don't bother really watching that stuff.
So what then if you see a film of your mates and it's not the best?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable telling them? And do your mates feel comfortable you telling them?
No, it's a sensitive thing. As much as we like to think that we need or accept constructive criticism, actors are very insecure. We need the approval of our peers because we know how hard it is. It's such a hard thing to do. So I think to lay the boot in when a peer of yours hasn't done a great job or has worked on a shit film or play or whatever, I think it's kind of, it's a bit sort of disingenuous. I think it's such a difficult thing to do just to get on stage or have a crowd. I think it's just a brave thing to do. So I know how I don't want to hear. I mean, I'd like to hear some honest feedback, well, would I? Probably not. I'd like to be able to take it without taking it personally, but I think it's a very difficult thing to do because it's not like you can go, my guitar was out of tune, or, that paint wasn't really what I wanted, or I was working in a dark plate, whatever. It's like, it was me.
A lot of people say, oh, you should have been here last night. It was so good last night.
That's right. Yeah.
Look, I get it, but also I feel like it's because everyone's artists, right? So therefore you got a lot of emotions. I'm an artist myself, very sensitive. We've got a lot of emotions. We need to be in tune with that, but we also need to accept that other people are artists and they're going to have their opinions. We need to be able to coexist and have these opinions without stifling each other, without feeling like we're stifled. When it comes to our mates, Not like just going online and just bad mouthing another actor or another director or writer for the sake of it. I mean, if your mate comes and says to you, what did you really think about this?
Yeah.
I think people should feel comfortable with their mates, but
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And there are certain people, but it's maybe a handful of people who I can do that with. And I know even, like I can be quite brutal sometimes in my assessment of, I need to learn to be a bit more sensitive about how I deliver that stuff because I know that I've hurt people in my critical assessment of their work. And I don't think that that's helpful, as much as it's important to explain where, you think that it could be improved or what didn't quite work for you. I think there's a way of communicating that stuff, which is a real skill, which I need to work on because I'm a bit of a sledgehammer.
Yes, and I'm very opinionated myself. So 2 more questions that are very quick ones I want to finish up with. You did the Crocodile Hunter collision course, who I also have as a Funko Pop with the legendary Steve-O, and whose legacy is still so strong today through his family.
Yeah.
Although we didn't need that advertisement, Robert. We did not need that advertisement. Also, Steve was the basis of my lead character, Toniston Turnbull, in my novels. So what's the deadliest animal you've wrestled? And extra points if you got bitten by it.
Well, believe it or not, a crocodile.
Oh my God.
It was, I know. And my name's Steve too. Woo! So it was actually in Sea Patrol, and we had this crocodile. We had to confiscate this crocodile from an illegal crocodile wrestling pit den thing in a pub, and it was a ridiculous episode. And we had to actually wrestle this crocodile, and it was only about 6 foot long, but it was strong.
Only?
Yeah.
Only 6 foot long?
Yeah, I know. It was bloody strong, though. Incredible power.
You're 6 foot tall.
I know. It was a baby. It was a bloody big baby.
Wow.
So, yeah, crocodile, and no, I wasn't bitten.
Oh.
But I can say I was. I've got a scar there it was a crocodile tooth embedded in my hand there. I still haven't got it out. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, just last question. So seriously, that is absolutely amazing. I didn't mean to go, when you said you weren't bitten. I didn't mean it like that. I love juiciness.
Wish I had been bitten.
This is Thrash and Treasure, okay?
I get it.
We treasure people as much as we thrash you all.
Yeah.
Out of love.
I know.
When was the last time you rolled down a hill for fun, but not because you slipped over?
When was the last time I rolled down a hill for fun?
Yes, but not because you slipped over, like because you actually wanted to.
Right. Probably about 6 years ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I've got 3 children, and 6 years ago they were all around the age where rolling down hills was fun.
Oh, it never stops being fun.
Yeah, it never stops, exactly. But at a certain point, teenagers won't do shit that is fun. They just don't do shit that is fun because it's not cool.
I
So
know.
you have to wait until you have that fun period until you're about 13, and then you get awkward and weird and go, I've got to be cool. And that can last, in my case, up until bloody your 40s. And then you sort of rediscover the joys of being an idiot kid again and go, I don't really care what anyone else thinks. I'm going to roll down that hill. And that's a joyous experience. And so the last time I did it was showing my kids how to do it. And that was, there's no better way to get them to do something than to do it yourself and go, don't do this, right? Whatever you do, don't roll down this hill like me.
Yep.
And of course they go, we're going to do that.
Yep. And they did it.
And they did it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Julie, I'm so thrilled.
No, it was great.
We're 2 minutes over. I'm so sorry.
No problem, mate.
Managed to get a lot in. I did cross off a few questions. So
yeah. Thank you. Well, you were very well prepared. And I was super impressed with your what do you call it? Punapalooza.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
It was a punapalooza at the start, which, a lot of work went into, obviously. So brilliant.
I was thinking, should I stop doing these? Because it does take a lot. Like,
don't stop.
I do it because I want to. I do it because you guys gave up your time to come on this show. You gave up your time to listen to the music. The very least I can do is put in a bit of effort.
Yeah.
And be prepared. But
don't stop.
We go all out on this show because we have the big names on there. We want more people. We want them to hear these introductions and go, oh, I want one. It's the ego.
Yeah, it was fun. Absolutely, it was fun. So yeah, thanks for your passion and
no worries.
Following my career, and I nearly said our career in the royal we. Jesus.
If I can get you and Adam on this show together one day.
Oh, That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Awesome, mate.
Alrighty, a huge, huge, huge thank you to Steve for joining me. That was an amazing conversation. It really was. I've been such a fan of Steve's work for so long, and it is an incredible honor to have him on my show. And thank you so much to Kerry for your help in setting this up and passing my email along. Now you can find Steve on the socials at www.instagram or instagram.com/Steve Bastoni. And if you look below in the details, you'll find the address for the Peninsula Film Festival. So you can find how to get tickets and how to submit your film for the 2026 festival. Anyways, if you heard the first ad break, you will hear that we have an upcoming episode with the president of Disney Theatricals, not at all intimidating, Thomas Schumacher, who is an amazing, inspiring person, and it was an absolute privilege to be able to produce this episode, to direct it, and to edit it, to bring it to the world, because it is the man who produced The Lion King. Caroline has him on Talk Musicals to Me, because opening soon in London's West End is Disney's Hercules, with lyrics by the amazing, legendary friend of the show, David Zippel. So shout out to David, and also to Robert Horn, the writer, Alan Menken, and of course Thomas. Chookers for the run. I can't wait for it to come to Melbourne. We are very, very excited, and Caroline will be there. Anyways, as for us, you can comment, like, subscribe, give us a star rating. 5 would be nice, but give us whatever is in your heart. I don't know. I hate doing this bit. I really do. Share with your friends, whatever. We're actually still looking for a team metal representation to join us, because scheduling can be a nightmare doing this show. So that's why we have rotating co-hosts, and why I take a lot of episodes solo, like this one, and the one I have to record tomorrow, which means I better get on to writing that episode. So anyways, thank you for listening. You take care of yourselves and each other, and we shall see you next time. Uru!
Good on you, mate. Cheers.
I bungled that.